Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories. So sign up and be our next guest. And good afternoon and welcome, Jim, to Pitch to the Panther. Jim is an exciting character, but today I'm going to introduce him as the man talking from his shed in Somerset. And I'm going to hand over to you, Jim, because you'll do a much better job than I did. Welcome, Jim.
Krista, I should say Ola, shouldn't I? Because you're in Spain and I'm over here in, actually today, sunny Somerset. And yes, I'm in a garden shed. So look, thank you for inviting me on the Panther Pitch. And I feel like I should somehow growl or sort of purr a little bit somehow. We're going to talk about getting older today, aren't we?
Yeah, if you have to. This is
Yeah.
something we all resist, but go on. We're growing
Well,
older.
well,
Tell
yeah,
us
but
what we can do.
well, I think the thing about growing older is that it's full of opportunity. And my little backstory is about being an entrepreneur around the world. So I've set up 9 businesses on 3 continents, including Singapore, China, India, now the UK. When I say about getting older, what I also think we could touch on is how we can transition as we move later on in life from being paid to do things to being paid for what we know how to do. And so I just thought what we could talk about today is the transition that those of us can make happen as we get older from being told what to do by people and kind of having to turn up at a certain time and place for a certain amount of money and transition to owning our own time, building our own portfolio of income because we have a long time to live now, Krista. In spite of what
Gosh.
I've done in my youth, I reckon I've still got a few runs left, especially if the English cricket team's anything to go by. I'm going to stay at the crease for a little while longer. So, Krista, I
Yeah.
thought we could talk about the basic goodness and optimism of getting older, but of making sure that age comes with control. What's scary about getting older, apart from, needing to go to the toilet more often at night and, your children not listening to you and stuff like that. So what's fun about getting older, of course, is that you learn a few things, right? And you slow down a little bit in some ways, but
Just a few.
yeah,
Yeah.
just a few. But that's worth a lot to a lot of people, right? So the wisdom that we've accumulated over the years, regardless of what we've done, has value to people. And I think we could talk about how people could take that wisdom, that skill set, and make it into a form of income if they need it, or a form of pastime which keeps them stimulated. So they're not one of those people drooling in the chair in the retirement home where people say, see that person over there? They were something once in China. They used to import sports cars in China. And I'll just be sitting there, little spittoons coming out of my cheek. I don't want to be that person in a comfy chair later on in life, being wheeled in and out and being sort of bumped into by people with dining table trays and stuff like that. I kind of want to keep going. And I think if it's okay with you, Krista, I'm sure you've got a better idea of what we could talk about, but
I am dying with laughter because you have painted a picture that, hey, none of us really want. In reality, we are all, I guess, entrepreneurs at heart, even if we don't realize it. And quite honestly, because we're all so unique, none of us actually were born and went, oh, I'll work for a corporate. Oh, I'll finish my days doing this. That wasn't the intention of our lives. And I think when we actually get a bit older, we realize that our worth is
far more, and we can contribute to society. We're able to give back to society. And we're also in a very strong position, as you said, learnt. We are educated, is probably the best way to describe it. So, with that, I want to hear how you are going to survive the next 50 years. Come on, Jim.
50 is a good innings. Okay, let's say I get to that age. I think a few things there, Krista. One is this idea that we're not all born to work for corporations. I think, what happens is that at some stage, through school especially, and through parental guidance and society, we're taught to have an anxiety about risk and the unknown. And we're also taught to take instructions because that keeps society going. But as we get older, unless we're completely neutered, there are little feelings of annoyance about being told what to do that crop up, right? So most of us are not entrepreneurs. In fact, less than 5% of the world is actually an entrepreneur statistically, right? There are millions of people who are self-employed and they employ themselves. But actually, the next level up where people employ people is about 5%, which is, for those of you that can see the hat, I got 19 dots and only one is colored in, and that is kind of like the 5%. So the thing is that we don't all have to be entrepreneurs to create wealth and to create independence for ourselves. So one of the myths I'd like to kind of bust, if you like, Krista, is that you don't have to be a swashbuckling entrepreneur and take lots of risks and put your house on the market and raise money from family and friends to have control over your own time. The sea change really that's happened in the last decade is really around the knowledge economy, right? And around the enablement through technology to share what you know with people who may not be close to where you are, right? So, joking apart, I am in a garden shed, right? For those people that can see behind, looks great. But what you can see in the picture, that is the garden shed. That is everything. There is no more of it, right? It's a bit like, when you see TV, you go, oh, I wonder what's that's on the outside of the frame. There isn't anything. I'm in a very small 2 meter by 2 meter, but I cleared out the garden furniture, sprayed it down when I got back from China, and put in some power, redecorate it, made some shelves, and I've got a little Wi-Fi mobile phone data card that I put into a cracked data roaming unit, and I stuck a couple of these little antennae that you have on caravans onto the side of the shed, and I bought a solar powered light for the shed because at the beginning there wasn't enough light. All you need is connectivity to the outside world. I got to tell you, in winter, connectivity and heat became my next essential thing. The first winter was pretty brutal, I can tell you. I sit there in socks and everything. But once you have connectivity to the outside world, you can add value to people regardless of where they are. And I like to think of it as being a knowledge driven, geography independent sense of well being, right? So if you're geography independent, you don't have to worry about where you're living. So you could live in Spain like you are, which is obviously very nice. You'd have a siesta and go down to the beach and and sing and
P.S.
stuff.
My siesta is now. I'm just letting you know.
I'm so crazy. I a terrible thought. I'm keeping you up. That would explain, by the way, anyone who's watching why she's yawning and stifling yawns. So, you know, so there we are. I've obviously bored her after what is it, 5 minutes or so. So this idea, Krista, of first of all that we are all liberated by technology. Okay, so I
Mm,
have a
very true.
£24 a month unlimited bandwidth Vodafone card, and that's enabling me to run what I'd love to share with you what I'm building from here. So once you have connectivity, the next thing is to think about what you could offer to other people. Worry about where they are later, but what do you know? What have you accumulated in terms of experiences? Now, when you get to my age, 55, you have quite a lot of experiences, right? I happen to have jumped out of an airplane at 18, made enough money to get to Australia, learned as a result of that that actually it was much more profitable to jump out of planes and do sponsorship than to work selling toys at £5 an hour, right? So that was my introduction to some marketing
To
and
life.
commerce.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then I spent some time in Singapore, 12 years there, and I went to China at the age of 40 to keep the venture going, and then I moved back here. So I have different skill sets. There comes a time when we have to decide what we'd like to offer people. And in my case, I've started a brand called the UnNoticed Entrepreneur, Krista. Okay, so the UnNoticed Entrepreneur is for all of those entrepreneurs out there to help them overcome being overlooked. I've spent nearly 30 years starting businesses and building businesses, whether I built the brand for Morgan Cars in China, for example, as my own business. And I still have the PR firm in Singapore. But the core thing that I always do, I help people to find a way to communicate what they do. Other people have got different skill sets. My sister, for example, Dr. Shelley James, she understands light, and she is now working as a luminologist and just had a TEDx speech go live. And everyone has got something different to offer, right? And as you said earlier,
Absolutely.
separate but
Mm,
equal, right? It's not a judgment about whose is better or worse. I started the
mm,
UnNoticed Entrepreneur brand. And then what I've done is to say, well, how could I package that knowledge? So in my case, I'm doing the podcast, The UnNoticed Entrepreneur. I have the book. This is the
the
first
book.
volume. The book. The second volume is just coming up now on Amazon and on Barnes and Noble. And then I have some courses that I'm starting on Kajabi. Okay, so I have like three different pillars of the stool, right? In the old days, publishing companies had magazines and trade shows and conferences, right? So there are different, if you like, products that people can build that they can then monetize. So you can have advertising on your
Mhm.
podcast, you can have book sales, and you can have a subscription to your course. Doesn't matter, right? We can all do different things. Some people are making money doing YouTube videos on how to cook Indian food. Doesn't matter. We've all got different skills. The technology enables
Absolutely.
us. If we think about what that core, if you like, service offering can be, in my case, it was this, and then I did some very simple design, and then you can build a business around that, right, and turn that handle. As a result, it's not about getting older and getting closer and closer to that retirement home with the spittle. Hopefully, I might be getting closer to the sangria. I don't know, Christopher. You know, the idea that as we get older, we can think differently, but how we think and what we know is of great value to people that are starting on their journey. And
Mm,
that's really what I'd like to share on the Panther Pitch is it's never too late. In fact, the older we get, the more valuable we become, right? So I think that's
absolutely.
an essentially positive message. But if you work for a big company, the problem is the older you get, the more expensive you become, and the slower you become, and the less competitive you become internally with the young people coming up behind you. So if you're in a corporate role, getting older is not a good place. But the liberty of self employment with some technology, a little bit of solar electricity and some heating can really create amazing opportunities and freedom. And the final part, Krista, is that if you have a geography independent, knowledge driven business, you can do it from anywhere. And most of us, when we get older, we like to go to different places, go to somewhere warm, maybe, go and be where the children or the grandchildren are. And you can run that business simply by carrying your Vodafone SIM card and your mobile router with you.
I have to say thank you so much at this point, Jim. We have, as per usual, overrun, guys,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but
That's my fault.
it's absolutely fine. I just think today that's really inspirational. And for anyone out there having to start a journey again, having been told some really bad news that they no longer have a job back in the day, you can hear how old I am. So I actually want to say a big thank you because this gives us hope as we get older. This gives us a way of making a difference in our lives. And yeah, we might not know what it is we want, but that's part of our journey as well. And Jim, you've been amazing. I am so looking forward to actually hearing about the story about falling out of the plane. Or were you pushed or did you jump? But that's for another day.
I know we're out of time and you've had Mason Harris on. I don't want to take any more time on the show than Mason Harris got because that would be wrong. because he is the man with chutzpah, and I'm
So
just a humble reader.
Chutzpah Man will be on, and I think I'm going to do a panel with all of us having some fun about the chutzpah, because that was amazing too. So thank you again, and have an amazing afternoon. Take care.
Can I say muchas gracias? Hasta luego, as you're in Spain.
Hasta
Thank you so
luego.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. This is Club 10M Plus's exciting new podcast that's here for you. We are all about stories, new developments, and learning about individuals. Our hope is that you will join us every week to hear about our distinguished guests. We hope to inspire you, bring you laughter, and make you reflect. Our guests come from all walks of life, and primarily, they want to share their stories. Not sure about you, but I love a good story. So Club 10M Plus have devoted their time to creating these podcasts, to sharing great ideas and stories, and much more. So tune in every week to make sure that you don't miss out. It could be you next week. Want to know more? We want to hear your stories, so sign up and be our next guest.